I had a conversation in my office today that I cannot stop thinking about. In 32 years of medicine, I have learned to keep my composure, but what this patient told me shook me in a way I was not expecting. Not because it was rare, because it was the opposite of rare. What she described is happening to millions of people over 60 right now, today, this very morning, and none of them know it. She did not want to be filmed, but she recorded her story in audio because she said if even one person hears this and changes, it was worth it. I need you to listen to what she told me.
I do not know how to say this without sounding crazy, but I think I am losing my mind, and I am only 64. It started about 2 years ago. Little things at first. Forgetting a word here, blanking on a name there. I told myself it was stress. Then it got worse. Last month, I was driving to church, the same church I have gone to for 30 years, and I missed my turn. Not because I was distracted, because I genuinely could not remember which street to turn on. I sat at a red light and I felt this wave of panic wash over me. I eat healthy. I walk every day. I do not drink. I do not smoke. I have toast with my breakfast every morning, a sandwich for lunch, crackers in the afternoon. I'm doing everything right. So why is my brain falling apart? My doctor ran tests and said everything looks fine. If everything is fine, why do I feel like I am disappearing a little more every single day?
When she listed everything she eats in a day, I felt my stomach drop. Because the answer to her question was right there, woven into nearly every meal she described, and she had no idea. If you listened carefully to what she just said, the clue was hiding in plain sight. Stay with me, because what I am about to reveal will make you rethink something you probably ate today, and yesterday, and the day before that. My name is Dr. Margaret Whitmore. For 32 years, I have specialized in brain health and healthy aging for people over 60, with a deep focus on the connection between the gut and the brain. I created this channel because I was tired of watching good people do everything they were told was right and still lose their sharpness, their memory, their clarity, without anyone explaining why. What my patient described today is not unusual. I hear it every single week. People who eat what they believe is a clean, sensible diet, who take care of themselves, who cannot understand why their brain feels like it is slowly shutting down. In so many of those cases, the answer has been hiding in the most ordinary, most overlooked, most completely unsuspected part of their daily meals. Today, I am going to tell you exactly what it is. I want to build this carefully because what I am about to say goes against something you have believed your entire life. Think about what you ate today. Think about breakfast. Think about lunch. Think about the snacks you reached for between meals. Now ask yourself how many of those foods contained one specific ingredient. An ingredient that is in almost everything. An ingredient so common, so universal, so deeply embedded in the way we eat that questioning it feels almost absurd. You probably do not even notice it anymore. It is just there at every meal, at every table, in every kitchen. It has been there your entire life. Nobody has ever told you to worry about it. Your doctor has never mentioned it. Your family eats it. Your friends eat it. It is the most normal, most invisible, most trusted food in the world. That is exactly why it is so dangerous. Because something this ordinary, this everywhere, this deeply trusted could not possibly be hurting you. That is what everyone thinks. That is what my patient thought. That is what I used to think. I am talking about white bread and refined wheat products. Toast, sandwich bread, dinner rolls, crackers, pasta, bagels. The flour that is in nearly every processed food you pick up at the grocery store. The foundation of almost every meal that most people over 60 eat every single day, multiple times a day, without a moment of hesitation or a flicker of doubt. Before you react, before you think I have lost my mind, before you say bread is the most basic food in the world and people have been eating it forever, I need you to hear me out. Because the bread your grandmother made and the bread sitting on your kitchen counter right now are not the same food. They share a name. They share a shape. That is where the similarity ends, and the difference between them is quietly wrecking the gut health of millions of people over 60 and sending shockwaves directly into their brains. I want to be very clear about something before we go any further. If you eat bread every day, if it is a staple of your meals, if it is something that brings you comfort and satisfaction, I am not here to make you feel guilty. I am not here to vilify a food that you love. You have been eating what was available, what was affordable, what was normal. Nobody ever pulled you aside and said this might be affecting your brain. There is no blame in what I am about to share. There is only understanding, and understanding is what gives you the power to make a different choice if you want to. Here is what happened to bread over the past several decades, and this is the part that most people have never been told. The wheat that goes into modern white bread and most refined wheat products has been heavily processed. The grain is stripped of its outer layers, which contain the fiber, the nutrients, and the compounds that your gut relies on. What remains is essentially a fine, white powder that your body converts into sugar almost immediately after you eat it. A single slice of white bread raises your blood sugar faster than a tablespoon of pure table sugar. Most people have no idea about that. They think of bread as a neutral food, a vehicle for whatever you put on top of it. In reality, every slice is a concentrated dose of rapidly absorbed sugar entering your gut with almost no fiber to slow it down. When you eat toast for breakfast, a sandwich for lunch, and crackers in the afternoon, you are hitting your gut with 3 separate sugar floods in a single day. Day after day, week after week, year after year. I want to pause here and ask you something directly, because I think this is one of those moments where honesty can help someone. How many times did you eat something made with white bread or refined wheat today? Think about it honestly. Breakfast toast, a lunchtime sandwich, crackers with soup, a dinner roll, pasta for dinner. If the answer is 2 or 3 or more, I want you to leave a comment below this video. You can simply write, "I never realized how much bread I eat every day." That is all. Because right now, someone else watching this video is counting the same thing and feeling a quiet shock that they have never considered before. Your comment could be the moment they realize they are not alone in this, and that awareness is the first step toward change. Please share if you can. Now let me take you inside your body and show you what these repeated sugar floods from refined wheat are doing to your gut and, through your gut, to your brain. Inside your digestive system, there is a vast community of living organisms that produce the chemical messengers your brain depends on for memory, focus, clarity, and emotional stability. This community needs balance and diversity to function properly. When refined wheat hits your gut and converts rapidly into sugar, it feeds a very specific group of organisms, the ones that thrive on sugar and produce inflammatory waste as a byproduct. These organisms are aggressive. Given a steady fuel supply, they multiply rapidly, crowding out the beneficial organisms that were producing the brain-supporting messengers your mind depends on. Think of it like a forest where one invasive species of vine starts growing out of control. It wraps around the trees, blocks the sunlight, chokes the roots. The trees do not die immediately, but they stop growing. They stop producing fruit. The birds that depended on them leave. The entire ecosystem shifts away from diversity and health toward domination by a single destructive force. That is what happens inside your gut when refined wheat products are a staple of every meal. The invasive species takes over, and the organisms your brain needs most are slowly strangled out of existence. The damage does not stop there. Your gut has a protective lining, a thin barrier that decides what enters your bloodstream and what stays contained. Refined wheat contains compounds that directly irritate this lining. Each time you eat white bread, crackers, or pasta, these compounds press against the barrier and weaken the bonds between the cells that hold it together. After 60, this lining is already more fragile than it once was. The daily assault from refined wheat accelerates the deterioration. Tiny gaps form. Harmful particles slip through into the bloodstream. Your body responds with that silent, invisible inflammation I talk about so often on this channel. It spreads through your system without symptoms you can feel on the surface, and when it reaches your brain, it creates the fog, the forgetfulness, the mental heaviness that so many people over 60 describe to me. Imagine a fishing net that has been in the water for years. The rope is still there, the shape is still there, but the mesh has thinned. Holes have appeared in places that used to be solid. Small fish that should be caught are slipping through. That net is your gut lining, and every serving of refined wheat is another day in the water, another day of wear, another set of holes that let something through that was never supposed to escape.
The moment that scared me the most happened about 4 months ago. I was on the phone with my sister, and she was telling me about something that happened at her grandson's birthday party. Halfway through the story, I realized I had no idea who she was talking about. Not the grandson, not the party, nothing. It was like she was telling me a story about complete strangers. I said his name back to her like a question, and she went quiet. Then she said, "That is your great-nephew. You were at his birthday last year. You gave him the bicycle." I did not remember any of it. Not the party, not the bicycle, not being there. My sister started crying on the phone, and I just sat there feeling hollow. That was the day I decided something had to change, because I could not keep losing pieces of my life like this.
I want you to hear from one more patient of mine. She also preferred to share her experience through audio only, but she wanted you to know what she went through. What she described, losing an entire memory of an event she attended, is devastating. When I spoke with her about her daily meals, the pattern was unmistakable. Toast every morning, sandwiches almost every day, pasta 2 or 3 times a week, crackers as her go-to snack. Refined wheat was the foundation of nearly everything she ate. Her gut had been under constant assault, and her brain was paying the price in lost memories. Now let me talk about what you can do, because this is the part that matters most, and I want to make it as clear and practical as possible so you can start today. The change I am recommending is not to eliminate bread from your life forever. I am not asking you to live without sandwiches or never touch pasta again. What I am asking is something more targeted and much more sustainable. Replace the refined white versions with whole grain alternatives and reduce the total number of times per day that wheat products appear in your meals. Let me be very specific about what this looks like. For breakfast, instead of white toast, try a slice of real whole grain bread. Not the kind that says whole wheat on the package, but is still soft and white inside. Real whole grain bread is dense, heavy, and you can see the actual grains and seeds in it. The fiber in this bread is intact, which means the sugars are released slowly into your gut instead of flooding it all at once. Your beneficial organisms receive steady nourishment instead of a shock. Your blood sugar stays stable instead of spiking. If you want to go further, replace the toast entirely some mornings with eggs, or plain yogurt with nuts, or a piece of whole fruit. For lunch, if you love sandwiches, make them with that same real whole grain bread, but consider having a sandwich 3 times a week instead of every day, and on the other days, build your lunch around vegetables, protein, and healthy fats instead. For snacking, replace the refined crackers with a small handful of almonds or walnuts, a few slices of cucumber with a bit of hummus, or some carrot sticks. These alternatives give your gut rest between meals instead of hitting it with another round of refined sugar. Let me walk you through what happens inside your body when you make these changes, because the process is genuinely encouraging. During the first week, the reduced sugar load from refined wheat gives the aggressive organisms in your gut less fuel. Their growth slows. The beneficial organisms, which have been suppressed and crowded out, begin to find breathing room. The constant irritation against your gut lining eases. The cells along the barrier begin their natural repair process, something they have been trying to do for years, but could never complete because the damage kept arriving faster than they could fix it. During the 2nd and 3rd week, the diversity inside your gut starts to shift. The beneficial organisms grow in number. The chemical messengers they produce begin flowing to the brain more consistently. The gut lining continues to tighten, closing gaps that had been open for months or years. Less inflammation enters the bloodstream. Less interference reaches the brain. Many seniors tell me that around the 3rd or 4th week, the change became impossible to ignore. The fog that had been their constant companion started to thin. They could recall names faster. They could follow a conversation without losing the thread. They could read a page and remember what it said. One person told me that her husband noticed before she did. He said she seemed more present, more engaged, more like the woman he married. She told me that was the first compliment about her mind she had received in years, and she cried when she heard it. I need to be transparent with you because trust is sacred to me. Bread is not the only thing that affects your gut and brain health. The body is complex and many factors are involved. What I am telling you is that for a surprising number of people over 60, reducing refined wheat turned out to be one of the most impactful changes they ever made for their mental clarity. It was hiding in plain sight at every meal, on every plate, completely unsuspected. Changing it did not require money, willpower, or a medical degree. It just required the willingness to look at something ordinary with new eyes. If this video has shifted something inside you, if it has made you see your own plate differently than you did 20 minutes ago, I would love for you to subscribe to this channel. Every week, Dr. Margaret Whitmore explores a different piece of the connection between your gut and your brain after 60. We look at the foods, the habits, and the small daily choices that shape how clearly you think, how well you remember, and how fully you show up for your own life. Everything is shared in plain, honest language because I believe your health should never be locked behind words you cannot understand. There are thousands of people in this community who started where you are right now, curious and ready for change. When you subscribe, you join them, and I can tell you sincerely that this is a community built on warmth, honesty, and genuine care for one another. I want to end with something I hope stays with you long after this video is over. You already ate today. Whatever was on your plate this morning, it is done, and there is no reason to feel bad about it. What matters is what happens next. The next meal. The next slice of bread you reach for or choose not to reach for. The next time you stand in the grocery aisle looking at 2 loaves and deciding which one goes into your cart. That moment, that tiny, silent, completely private moment is where everything changes. Not in a doctor's office. Not in a pharmacy. In your own kitchen, with your own hands, at your own pace. You have been feeding your body something that was quietly feeding the problem, and now you know. That knowledge is not a burden. It is a key. Use it. Start with one meal, one swap, one small quiet decision that your gut will feel and your brain will thank you for. You have not lost your sharpness forever. It is still in there, waiting for the interference to clear. Give it the chance. You are not too late for this. You are standing at exactly the right moment, and the next meal you eat can be the first one that starts bringing you back to yourself.